How you doing, everybody?
Welcome to our Sunday Night Live. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Woo! Where you at? I see Kentucky's in the house. Missouri. Oh, yeah. Here we go. The UK's in the house. Newfoundland, Canada. Spring Hill, Tennessee. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Texas. Rhode Island. Put your belts on. Woo. You look great, hon.
Thank you, sweetheart. So do you.
Not as nice as her. It is awesome to see everybody. Rome, Italy's in the house. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much for being here, Rome, Italy. Well, we've got a lot to cover. What do you think, hon?
We do. I just want to give our mods a shout out tonight. These ladies are so awesome. They keep our chat classy and warm and welcoming. And we always want to say thank you to them, to Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Teresa M, Laura Waldy, and Holly, who is the newest among the mods. So thank you, ladies. And we also want to thank our Patreon members, our YouTube members, and of course our subscribers. And just thank you, everybody, for being here. We do really appreciate it.
We certainly do. And we only ask just one thing, and that's if you've not subscribed to our channel, that you hit that subscribe button, and please then pass this on to your social media networks. For that, we would be grateful. And we're also very, very appreciative that each and every one of you are here because without you, we cannot do this show. And we have an absolute delightful time and a lot of fun, not only doing the research for this program, but just being here with you guys. And it's because of you is why we are here. So we've got a couple of things that we want to cover. First of all, we just got back from San Diego. It's kind of a bittersweet situation. One of my old friends and colleagues and partners that I used to work with had recently passed away, and we went to pay our respects to his family and Pam, his wife, and their children. Also we saw some old friends and some great colleagues, and I took a couple of quick pictures. One of them I want to give a super shout out to our little Miss Susie. If you're listening, Susie, Susie and I have been friends
dear friends for decades.
Since she was a little baby. And we used to participate in a lot of programs to help raise fund for the Down syndrome program. And Susie was at the event, and I hope she is watching because I told her I was going to give her a gigantic shout out. So there you go. Miss Susie, we love you. Okay, and next, of course, these fugitives, some of my old friends. You see John there, and Dan, those of you who have been with us over to the far right, you know Dan, and then, of course, Manny Alvarado, also another dear friend. We call him Avocados. He is absolutely one of the funniest guys you ever meet, along with another dear friend. To this group of fugitives here, the guy on the far left over there, Johnny D, behind Manny, and then, of course, John and Olin and Val and Diner and Jody, and I can't see in the back, but there's Karen in the middle. I'm in the back. Ed Jacobs back there, and
a great group of old friends that we got to work with years ago.
Yeah, and Dave Holland is back in there as well. So that said, as you can tell, this was a rough group of folks, and that was just a quick shot. There were many folks there We didn't get a chance to get everybody in the picture, but it was a marvelous time to see everybody and bring back a lot of great memories. So, did you have fun, Karen?
I did. I always have a great time in Southern California. It is
And
always great to be there and see family and friends, and it's wonderful.
And told a lot of war stories about Jim.
Yeah.
He was funny. That guy, he was hysterical. Absolutely 10,000% hysterical. So, all right, let's shift gear for a minute and slow the pace down, just kind of like the preliminary hearing. We're gonna cover a couple things tonight. We're gonna kind of wrap up. The other day I had to leave, and so I couldn't get in the fourth and the fifth day of the prelim, but I did go back when we had some free time, and I did watch it. And I don't know about anybody else, but what color was the paint as it was drying?
Yeah, exactly. It was painful at many times for many reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys felt, but holy cow! You typically, as it goes, these types of situations go pretty rapidly. In at least the court system in California, and I don't know if this is a reality for just the court system in Provo, Utah, or what, but holy cow! I mean, this poor judge, and I'm going to just say that he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad judge. He's just taking his doggone time. It's like the standard of probable cause is so much lower than beyond a reasonable doubt, which is presented to a jury. But my gosh, this, you could tell this poor guy had come as a prosecutor into this situation after handling kids and abuse cases there in probably the juvenile court system, if he was a prosecutor in that handling SA and child abuse type of problems. And so he's probably used, I told Karen when we were driving, that he's probably used to just dealing with children who are witnesses in the type of cases that he was prosecuting. So, I mean, my gosh, talk about put me in the chair, give me the laughing gas and pull all my teeth simultaneously. I mean, did you get that sense?
Yeah, yes, it was so tedious, and it just kept going on and on. And I don't know if any of you guys got to watch the first 3 days of the hearing here on TIR. Chris provided some colorful, a bit snarky, but very educational commentary on the process. And it helped get through. It helped me get through watching it, especially a bit of the snark, which is always kind of fun. But it went so slow and so long, and difficult. And of course, at the end of 5 days of a preliminary hearing, what do we have? No answer. more. I wouldn't call it a delay. It's not a delay. It's not like a criminal defense attorney delay tactic, but the judge basically said, push this till September 1st, when defense and prosecutors, the state, will get to put on a couple of hours each, I believe it's 2 hours each, arguments. And then after that, then we wait for his decision, if there's enough probable cause to bind Tyler Robinson over for trial.
Yeah, I mean, and in the Cali courts, anybody that's been there, done that, and, not just murders, but just robberies, you name it. I mean, they're in. The prosecution, the defense gets up, lays out not all of the evidence, but they lay out enough evidence to where, there is a preponderance of the evidence that says, okay, I'm going to bind this over. I find there's, probable cause does exist that this defendant probably had committed the problem, okay, and therefore he's going to be bound over for trial. Let's set a trial date and get the pre-motion set, right? Get everything, the arraignment, get it all moving. But you could have really done this whole thing a day, maybe a day and a half at the most. But every time we turned around, the defense attorney, Mr. Novak, would stand up and it would be like, "Are you kidding me, Your Honor? Shut this guy off for a little while." And this is not about, proper, defense of Tyler Robinson. He's going to get a fair trial. Good grief. Even Buddy, even Buddy fell asleep and Buddy's still sleeping, as a result of the prelim. I start talking about the prelim, Buddy falls asleep. That's enough evidence right there to say, this thing's got to kick off to another direction. But I don't know about you, but when this guy would get up and talk, I'm telling you, and I said this a couple of times last week, I mentioned that there is no way a jury is going to like this guy because, he just goes on. And I don't know if his curls are too tight in his head or what's going on here, but this guy, it was wrapped real tight. And it was the minutia things that, he'd lay up. Well, you said you have rules. And he was almost lecturing the judge. And you could see in Judge Gray that he was getting
Jeff Graff.
Graff. Say it again.
Graff.
Spell it.
Graf. I thought you said Gray.
Ron Graff. I did say Gray.
Okay.
Ron Graff. Tony Graff. Yeah. Ron Graff's. I used to work with a Ron Graff. I'm teasing.
Gosh.
Anyway, that said, that said. So, it was literally like, are you kidding me? You're going to now lecture the judge, and it just got nuts. Just got nuts. Okay, so a real quick, case context. Of course, Charlie Kirk was the founder of Turning Point USA. He was fatally shot on September 10th, 2025. And when was the judge appointed to the bench as a magistrate?
May of 2025. So obviously everybody knows probably already the judge is brand new. He's a novice.
So May, June, July, August, September, 4 months.
4 months.
4 months, count them. Okay, 4 months that this judge had been sitting on the bench. And Charlie Kirk goes to UVU, which is Utah Valley University in Provo, Utah. And during an outdoor TPUSA debate, where there were approximately over 3,000 people in attendance, a single shot came from a rooftop approximately 142 yards away from the top of the Losi Center. Now, as you guys know, it wouldn't be the interview room unless we took you there. So we're going to drive around the campus real fast and show you, those of you who have been with us from day one, going on almost 6 years now.
Close.
Know that we try to bring you the best information, the most factual information available not only to us, but what the law enforcement authorities are reporting and putting out there. So Karen and I just happened to have been in that area at that time, literally, as luck has always had it. I've always had the luck of the Irish. And so we drove around the campus, we took some photos, and we also have a bunch of stuff in our playlist. But I just want to show you driving around the campus of how beautiful this particular campus looks like, number one, and then get your opinion. And I'll stop it when we get to the area where they have Tyler Robinson coming off of the video, off of the roof, on video in almost 4K. Those people that were there in the courtroom said they even have him pulling the trigger and taking the shot on video. So anybody out there who's saying differently, you're really going to hurt your credibility over the long run on this one. So my advice would be, less is more, and don't open your mouth and insert your foot. All right, so I'm going to just play this real fast.
Does this have audio?
No audio.
Okay.
I could put any audio. Let me see if I can get it to play. I've been having some problems with this player today. There we go. All right, here we go. And of course, the camera person extraordinaire, Miss Karen.
Yours truly.
And so what we're doing is we're coming in the same direction that Tyler Robinson came in. And remember, there is the parking structure they talk about. Now, this is obviously the campus is shut down. This is right, shortly thereafter the shooting. And he is coming in this direction. And then what he does is he makes this turn and it wraps around the backside to where the Losi building is and where the garage was, where he parked his car. And remember, he was there early before the shooting, and he came in a different pair of clothing, and we're coming up onto the parking garage. And there's a building, what they call the Institute building, which is an LDS church religious building for teaching. And the parking garage is across from that. And that's where he's caught on video, which is coming up right here. Not that one right there, but this one right here to the right. All of this area here was all cut, shut down, and the courtyard is on the other side of this building. And if you want to see the totality, here is the parking garage right here. Okay, this is the garage that he goes into.
He walks into.
Well, he drove into that, and then he's seen walking up these various stairs in that garage as a whole. Okay. And this is the building, the Institute building that they were talking about. And now as you come around here, right off to the right is where the Losi building is going to be. So you're going to be able to see, you'll see this person walking straight ahead here. And if you look off to the right, and I have other video of this in our playlist, because I got out of the car and I actually walked up there. But that is the actual building where he jumped off of. Right there, you can see it clearly where that girl is walking down the berm there. So that's the sniper's nest. And that is where he had jumped up off of that, and then he ran across the street. So it's behind me from where this video is, where he dropped the rifle off. But you can clearly see where he had jumped off this particular building here. And to the left here, you can see is the wooded area where he dropped his rifle.
Do you take us into that wooded area?
I do actually on the other one, on the other video. I just want to show everybody this one tonight. So you can clearly see, this is not, who's that cuteness? Oh my gosh. That's some serious cuteness.
What were you throwing me, the keys?
Anyway, so if you go up this berm here, you can get up to the top there and you can see where this sniper's nest was. Now, the interesting thing about this, guys and gals, is the fact that on the other side is a straight shot into the courtyard. And it literally was about 142 yards thereabouts. And it was not a hard shot at all. Not a hard shot at all. And everybody, there was different theories, floating around there, about, various, multiple weapons and all this other stuff. And it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. And remember, the defense was trying to make a big deal the other day about what's behind that backdrop where Charlie was sitting. Well, here I put this picture up specifically to show tonight that there's nothing hidden back here, nothing to see. Okay? Nobody shooting through the back of the poster there. He doesn't have a microphone that explodes from the IDF and Mossad and Benjamin Netanyahu and all that other stuff. It is literally a young man who we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, who quite frankly took a shot. And Tyler Robinson surrendered himself, the next day after his parents recognized him on the news.
From the video.
From this particular video. And in the preliminary hearing they did the other day, they said that, they showed for the first time that he has a rifle and he's walking with that rifle in his, pants leg. And it's pretty obvious that he has some type of object in there. And so, the fact that this particular picture surfaces around the globe, and Charlie Robinson's father just happens to be Tyler Robinson's father just happens to be watching the news, and he sees it, calls his son and says, "Hey, what's going on?" And then, of course, in the court, in the prelim, he says, "Yeah, it's me." And he also, says a couple of things to other people. So right now, the images that were, posted up, which is one of them right in front of you, his father again sees it. So Tyler turns himself in through a friend of his who was a deputy and his parents. He faces aggravated murder and up to 9 to 10 additional counts, including discharging a firearm, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and, of course, the enhancements for the violence. And because there were over 3,000 people there, including children, the prosecution at this point is seeking the death penalty. They are saying the motivation in this is political in nature. He has obviously pleaded not guilty at this time, and he's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So now it shuffles over to the preliminary hearing, which began on the 7th, and it's been a 5-day hearing, ending last Friday. Tell us a little bit about Judge Graff, honey.
Okay, so I don't have his bio up in front of me. Maybe you can pull it up. So he became a judge in May of 2025. We know he was appointed by the governor of Utah. I have been asking Chris all week. We have the same conversation. It just kind of loops. And I said, why would the presiding judge in the 4th district, knowing this case is got to be the most high-profile murder case that's ever come into that jurisdiction in recent memory, why would the presiding judge assign it to a brand new judge? That I don't understand. I don't. And I know a lot of you this week have questioned, well, can Erica Kirk can her attorneys, ask the court to replace him if they're not real happy? People have been very critical of the Judge Tony Graff Jr., for a lot of reasons. We'll touch on a couple of them. And, right now the answer is no. When a presiding judge makes that decision, that's the decision. And I know a lot of people, it was so frustrating watching this procedure because it felt like we were watching a novice, a man who was kind of unsure of himself and making sure that every person, not just every person, what we'll call the 4 sides, that everybody had a voice. And Chris, before we jump into this, I know we're talking about the judge, but I found here's the most unusual part of this whole preliminary hearing. It, along with the fact that after 5 long days, the judge didn't even render a decision. I haven't seen, maybe you have, but I've never seen what we'll call 4 sides represented. We've got the state, the prosecutor, the defense attorneys, the victim's attorney, and a media attorney in there. And I kept telling Chris, I said, are we at a place, like we're pulling back on the 30,000 foot view here for a second. Are we at a place in our judicial system where we need a media lawyer in there arguing for the rights of the public? Yes, it's the media access, but the media is only there as a stand-in for the public. And now I was happy when the media attorney stood up and got to, weigh in, offer his opinion to the judge. And, of course, this was all about the defense is still pushing to keep cameras out of the courtroom for this procedure. And, of course, the victim's attorney, Erica Kirk, and her family are represented by their own attorney in this. And, what's interesting in Utah, if most of you may be aware of this, some of you may not be, but Utah has a victims' rights law that allows victims to be present in court, to view the public evidence, and to make comment to the judge, to have a voice, which I've never seen before. Chris, I don't know if you've seen that in any other, jurisdictions across the country. I thought it was, that piece is really interesting. So that alone slowed things down. It's not just the prosecutor and the defense. You had 2 other factions represented, the victim or victims, and then the media. And it, that contributed to making this court procedure that much more prolonged.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And what was really interesting for me watching it was the judge, instead of just making a decision and, putting the gavel down and say, okay, I remember the standard here, the standards of the evidence it's just to the court. So, typically these things go, Your Honor, I want to show the court item number 5 or number 1, whatever it's going to be. And you show it to the court, and then you show it to the witness. And then if the witness goes, yeah, okay, that's item number 5, I did A, B, C, and D, then you say, Your Honor, I'd like to admit this into court or into evidence as item number 5 or whatever the number is. And the judge goes, okay, boom, and you move on. Okay. In this situation, this judge let the defense and the prosecution argue over every single piece of evidence. There's no jury in the courtroom. So I got the sense that it was turning more into a mismanaged mini trial versus a preliminary hearing, which, the burden of proof is much lower. Was there enough evidence to believe that this person is the person who had committed the crime? And if so, that's all the court needs. And it's the judge making the decision. Okay. It's the judge making the decision. And if the attorneys wanted it that way, well, then the attorneys are doing themselves no favors, absolutely no favors by prolonging this thing with the victim's family inside the courtroom, evident of the fact that the victim's family needs their own advocate to the court. Forget the media, forget the public, everybody else, whether we like the fact that Charlie Kirk, was I got to be careful because I don't want to say something inappropriately, but whether you like him or not, okay, the human condition here is the guy was shot for having an opinion. Now do the math there. Okay. And now his family wants an opinion, and they're having to get an attorney to get the court to hear that opinion. I've been in this system since 1982, so that's almost 44 years now. I've never seen anything like this in my short tenure. Now, I understand what the judge is trying to do, and he's probably a super amazing human being. But at some point, you've got to rip the Band-Aid off, and you've got to say to the defense, you know what, that's not relevant right here. Show cause. Give me a reason why you want to put this in here. Give me a reason why you want to argue this now and not in front of a jury. And if you can't do that, then guess what? The court has all I need, and we're going to move on. I get the point that has just been proven here. And if we just look at the DNA, the analysis of the DNA that was argued, at the end of the day, right, like 5 hours, what did the court do? And what did the witness say? The witness said, yeah, I came to the same conclusion the state did. And that was a defense witness. And this isn't even the trial. All the judge had to do, quite frankly, is listen to what the prosecution said and said, defense, do you want to argue against what this witness just said? Yay or nay? Why did he let this go on and on and on? Because in my opinion, he is tainting the jury. And this may also be a defense strategy to flood the airways with Tyler Robinson.
What do you mean a defense strategy?
Well, if they're going to find a fair and impartial jury, that's going to be very difficult in the Utah area if every single night for 5 days, for 8 hours, that's 40 hours of testimony that is going to blast across every single one of those TVs through all the news agencies there. Maybe it is the defense's strategy, to say, hey, it's not Tyler, it's Twig, it's his partner. Okay? And throw that wrench, because once they start bringing in all the jurors that have been summoned, and they start for Dyer and start asking people, well, have you heard of this case? Oh yeah, I sat through it for 5 days. Now that judge is going to be going, holy cow, what have I done?
Well, they've been very clear, I think, that it's not that the jury pool is going, not that they're looking for jurors who've never heard of this case. That's not realistic. But I think it's ones who will at least tell the court, I can have an open mind in rendering a verdict based on the evidence. I think that's it. They don't expect people not to have heard of the case. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a really high bar in today's social media world, and how fast, information travels. I mean, quickly. And if we just think about all the conspiracies that came since he was shot, since Charlie Kirk was shot on September 10th, 2025. I mean, we're almost into a year.
But not everybody believes that, and not everybody who has a busy life is online listening to people's conspiracy theories about it. People consume news on the go as they go. I mean, people have families to raise, working jobs, so many responsibilities. I honestly don't think a lot of people are in the weeds on this case. I could be completely wrong, but I think if people have heard of them, it's maybe noise in the background, because I'm convinced it's a minority of people, and I don't give any credence to that. I just stick to the facts and the evidence of this case.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough. And I think, though, there's going to be enough. They're going to have to bring in hundreds of people in that area, in that, is that what is that, Davis County?
I believe so.
Is it? Well, whoever's you're gonna get a subpoena or a summons, to come to jury duty, and next thing you know, they're gonna drop the cannon on you. Just tell him you watched the interview room, and he's a retired homicide guy, and just say, he thinks most of these guys that are put in with this amount of evidence, good luck. That's all you have to say. I listened to Chris McDonough on the interview room on YouTube, and the defense is going to say, juror number 6, you're excused. Just tell him Ken Tankerous Chris sent you. Okay, let's go over the key evidence at this point. Okay, the prosecution.
Well, let me give a high level overview.
Oh yeah, on the judge. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, he was a
Utah County, not Davis. Thank you for correcting
Utah County.
us.
Okay, yeah,
thank you.
So I don't have the judge's bio in front of me, but he was a prosecutor.
Okay.
He was a prosecutor for many years. He did SA cases involving children. What else do you remember? We don't have his bio up, but.
Well, most of it was SA involving children. He had gone to DC. He'd been a judge. He worked for the AG's office for a little bit. He worked for the Utah County DA's office for quite some time, mostly in child abuse cases, though. And maybe that's why he talks like this. We'd like to get everybody to hold hands and sing Kumbaya in the courtroom for a half hour.
Don't get me started. That voice, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's just.
Okay.
I like to hear Law and Order. I like to hear definitive, total confidence coming from the bench.
Okay, kids, grab your cups. We're all going to swig. Okay, here we go. Key evidence so far, talking points. You got something else, honey?
Yeah. So do we want to go over the evidence? Like the 4 areas?
Let's do it.
Or 5?
Well, before we do that, let's
actually 5 areas.
I want to talk about, let's do this first, and then we'll talk about those 5 areas. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So the first thing, and we'll break them down one at a time. The surveillance video. Okay. Now, mind you, remember, this is they don't need a whole bunch of evidence to bind him over. Just enough to say, yep, that's the guy, or at least I believe that's the guy, i.e. the court, just like the police, just like the investigators believe that was the guy to bring him to the court. Meaning they hooked him up, they put him in custody, he's now in custody. I want to talk about real fast, how does a kid, 4.0 GPA, looks like this, smart kid, gifted kid. I got to be honest with you, my heart also goes out to his parents. I mean, they've got to be a wreck. I mean, a wreck. And I had a theory. Can I say what my theory was?
Sure, let's hear it.
I had a theory. As this thing starts getting closer and closer and closer, I think the 2 moms, I think Erica Kirk and Tyler's mom, when I say 2 moms, Erica's a mother of children and the wife of Charlie, I think they're going to forgive each other. And that's going to cause a whole new interesting twist. Now, this is just my theory. I could be way off, but they're both religious people. Even though they come from different denominations, they both believe in Christ. Erica has already said she had forgiven. I don't know. I think the 2 women are they're both crying in the preliminary hearing already, and they've got to be looking at each other in that courtroom and thinking, we have both lost in this scenario. Because if you think about it, how does this kid go from the upbringing that he did, and all indications up until he left home and moved in with this Lance Twigg guy, okay, that at some point all the rails and all the wheels came off the bus, and this kid went off into left field. But I don't know. I just have this gut feeling. I'm probably wrong, but just listening to some of the news reports coming out of the courtroom that Erica's crying, Tyler's mother's is unconsolable. They're both running out of the courtroom in separate doors and trying to get away from the paparazzi and all that stuff. But I think at some point these two may come together, and that may be a decision that will pull the death penalty off the table.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's your theory. It's a working theory. I don't personally, if that was ever to occur, I could see it after post court criminal proceedings. I just don't know.
Do you
don't know.
Do you honestly think Erica Kirk wants this kid killed by the state?
I don't know, but she made a very public statement 3 months after Charlie was killed, that she said publicly that she forgave this young man. Now, do we know how that would play into the death penalty being on the table? I think it's too early.
Right.
I think it's just too early in the process. We can't even get through the preliminary hearing with a decision. So I think it may be a little early.
Yeah, no, I mean, with all of the craziness taking place with, people attacking her, and, it's just, on both sides of this coin, you have parents who this young man, the parents recognize him on TV. They pick up the phone, they call their son.
Yeah, the dad did.
Right.
Which is unique for this kind of thing. Did he call him or did he text him?
Yeah, I don't
I think he
remember
texted him.
Okay.
Yeah. And he said, "Is that you? Tyler, is that you in the video?"
Yeah. And he says, "Yeah, Dad." And then he tells his father, "I'd rather, take my own unaliving versus, anything else, turn myself in." And can you imagine the decision a father and a mother have to make at this very moment? And I really believe that, again, this goes back to a religious foundation for the parents on both sides, on both families. And I can see where the dad is saying, "Look, this has got to be, you've got to turn yourself in, son. I'm sorry. This has got to happen." So the father calls his pastor, his minister, and the bishop of their church says, "Look, you're going to have to turn him in. You have to do this." And it's almost like, it's almost like watching somebody just go off into the hands of the state, where you're turning them over for death potential. No, I'm not arguing the death penalty. Don't misunderstand where I'm coming from here. I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of the parents, and our son coming to us and saying, "Hey, yes, that's me. I did it. Hey, and by the way, I want to just check out." And the father intervenes with a friend of his who was a retired sheriff. And that sheriff has to say, "Okay, Tyler, I want to meet you." And he does. And he talks him basically off the wall and off of the bridge. And the whole family and this guy, the family friend, drive to the Washington County, Utah Sheriff's Department and says, "I'm that guy that you're looking for. I'm that guy that you're looking for." And he turns himself in. Imagine the drive home with those two parents and their friend. Imagine the unconsolable tears and crying. Imagine all of that with the world, how much we were impacted by watching the shot go off on the world and watching the judge jump.
Who probably viewed it for the first time, potentially, in court. And we saw that this week.
And he watched 3 angles of it, 3 separate angles. And I think we all witnessed physically, that judge had an emotional response to that. And just like all of us did when we saw it. And then try to process, how does a young man like this with a 4.0 GPA, a gifted young man, all indications at this point, is that he comes from a stable family, and he's out there and he's thrust into the real world. And all of a sudden, this other stuff is in around him in a very weird way, and it starts getting very, very weird. How do you go from this to this? Having a rifle and getting up on a roof and taking out an amazing father, an iconic image to tens of thousands, if not millions of people, whether we agree or disagree. A lot of people hated John F. Kennedy too. But nobody wanted to see any of that take place. A lot of people don't like the president of the United States, but nobody wants to see him injured in any way, shape, or form. And yet somehow this young man comes through this this dialogue that says, no, we can't have conversations. We have to go to violence. And so at 8:30 in the morning, he's seen arriving on the campus in his gray Dodge Challenger. And he parks it in that garage we just passed. And from there, he visits the courtyard event area. And he also speaks with TPUSA representatives. So he's on the campus at 8:30 talking to representatives of Charlie Kirk. Later in the morning, he's seen buying food. He enters a wooded area, and he comes back without a backpack initially. At 11:53, he is seen wearing different clothes. He's limping at this point, and he ascends to the stairs in a pedestrian tunnel towards the Losi Center. And this is the picture that you're seeing here on the screen. Video has him on the Losi Center roof. According to some reports that were in the courtroom, the CCTV was actually zoomed in on him in a prone position on the roof. Okay. And at 12:15 to 12:22, he enters the Losi Center, goes to the roof, gets into that prone sniper's perch position. At 12:23.30 seconds, a shot is fired during the debate, and Charlie Kirk was discussing mass shootings and issues of transgenderism. At 12:24, less than 30 seconds later, Tyler is seen fleeing the roof, getting up from the prone position, jumping down, and running into the wooded area across the street. And later that night, early September 11th, at 12:30 a.m., his vehicle is seen returning to campus, and he contacts an officer who notes his license plate. The footage was described as placing Robinson at key locations before, during, and after the shooting. It was emotionally difficult for the Kirk family. Eric Kirk specifically was seen crying and at multiple times briefly exited the courtroom during the playback and description of the shooting. Also seen in the courtroom crying is Tyler Robinson's mother and father. Okay, that is the video evidence. What other evidence do we have?
Well, I mean, it's been described as kind of a mountain of evidence. There's a lot. It's potentially a prosecutor's dream to have this amount of evidence to present in court. So we have the text messages that Tyler Robinson sent his roommate, Lance Twiggs, after the shooting.
Yeah, and let me read some of those things.
Okay.
Okay, so the text messages. Robinson directs his lover, a gentleman by the name of Twiggs, to look under his keyboard.
Well, that's the letter. That's the handwritten letter.
Oh yeah, text message is a note. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm looking at I've got my note, but my notes, but
which is a very powerful piece of evidence when you take hand to paper, and when the accused shooter takes pen to paper and says that he did it.
Yes, he tells him, go look under the keyboard.
Right.
In my room. All right, so.
Do you have those text messages that he sent as well?
Yes.
Which we've all seen. We've seen this months ago. That it's been all over the news.
And in the note, it says, if you are reading this per my text, then I am so sorry. I left the house this morning on a mission. I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I took it. In reference to setting an auto text and facing prison or worse. So he sent an auto text, and he said, look, I had a chance to do it, so I did it. Twiggs' text asked Robinson, are you the shooter? And Robinson replies, I am. I'm sorry. They discussed planning.
Well, hang on. Isn't that a confession?
Oh, yeah, it's a full confession.
Okay. And we've got this 4 times.
4, yeah. What are the other 3?
We've got 4 different admissions of guilt. So the handwritten letter that was found under the keyboard to Lance Twiggs. We've got the text messages, a couple of Chris just wrote, the auto text. And then remember, he went on Discord to the Discord group.
Yeah, his friends.
And he also said, well, you're not going to be seeing me. I'm turning myself in, right? Another admission of guilt. And he said, Tyler Robinson said he was responsible for Charlie Kirk's death. So it's not like there's scant evidence against this guy.
No,
there's a mountain of evidence.
For a preliminary hearing, this was a slam dunk. I mean, it's almost like if you had a jury there. I mean, there's just so much here. I mean, what else do we have? We have I got to make sure I'm checking off my notes here because I don't want to miss something.
Yeah, well, let me go over the high level and then you check them off. Okay, so we have 4 different admissions of guilt, which we just touched on.
Okay.
We've got the surveillance video, which we just also touched on.
Okay.
We've got the ballistics on the weapon. They have the weapon. They have the weapon that Robinson used to shoot Charlie. Wrapped in the towel has DNA evidence, and so does the weapon. And then there's location evidence as well. We kind of talked about that. You want to just talk a little more about that?
That's the weapon. This is the weapon here. Okay. You can see that some folks have asked, well, why would there be a screwdriver up there? Because you can adjust that. You may be able to adjust that scope using a screwdriver. And so they have DNA on the screwdriver.
And DNA.
They have shell casings. They have cartridges, i.e. bullets that haven't been fired yet. They have the one that has been fired. It was inside this bolt. You see this little bolt thing right here? Okay, that's called a bolt action. And that is what's called a Mauser 98. It's a 30-06 bolt action rifle. And it was recovered wrapped in a towel in a wooded area near the campus. And actually, Karen and I went there and we took some pictures. This is an FBI picture, but we
That's
also
Fox
went there.
News picture. Yeah.
The rifle was right down into that ravine down there, just a little bit up the hill in the woods. So, they have him arriving at the campus on the video surveillance. They have him going to the sniper's perch. They have him getting off of the roof. They have him going to this wooded area and dropping the rifle. This is all on CCTV on that campus. They have the ballistics on the rifle. One spent shell casing was found in the rifle. 3 unfired cartridges had engravings, including one that said test shot and other messages. Most of them had gaming references to one of them dropping a bomb on a couple. Others were references to transgenderism. One that it said something about that
And political messages.
And political messages etched into the shell casings, a la Luigi, who wrote his messaging on the shell casings. And so they also have the Dremel, which is a tool used to etch the markings. And remember, there was testimony from Twiggs that said, he didn't want the round to go off, to be careful.
I thought that was so compelling.
It was.
I mean, I was glued. It was so compelling because the first we heard of the etchings on bullets was really the Luigi Mangione case, where he, of course, gunned down in cold blood the United Healthcare executive Brian Thompson. This is absolutely a copycat of doing the etchings on the bullets. But to hear the testimony from Lance Twiggs, who gave his statement to the authorities on the video, on the recorded video, which they played in court. I mean, you guys, if you're in chat, weigh in on what you thought. I mean, it was chilling. It was like, oh yeah, this is something we do, as if it's a hobby. I'm gonna, put etchings on bullets. To think that, to what avail? Why? Why was this something that Tyler Robinson did that Lance Twiggs reported about?
Well, and that's the big mystery here, right? And
it's huge.
That's the big mystery. I mean, you have these,
because this is about the motive of the whole crime,
right? Right. And I got to be honest with you, I just think there's a lot of emotional manipulation going on here too.
To what extent?
I think, don't get me started.
Well, you're talking about the defense, or are you talking about other factions?
I'm talking about I'm talking about Tyler. I'm talking about Twiggs, the relationship, all the roommates, all the gamers. They're all in there. They're in this little world. And how long have I been saying this, that we're in for some real problems ahead?
20 plus years.
And
probably
it goes towards when our youngest Dylan, our oldest, they didn't really have the stuff that these kids have to deal with today. But our youngest, he used to get into this Minecraft stuff. I used to call it Minecraft. Remember?
Yep.
And our son, who, our Ryan, he was kind of one who would push the boundaries. And he was like, Dad, I caught it. I told him not to listen to, some garbage type of music and stuff. And
years and years ago.
And long story short, he ended up, I found all these CDs that he had pirated and downloaded all this music. And quite frankly, it was just absolutely garbage. It was just garbage. And I was really surprised that he would listen to this. But being the father that I am, I said, well, no problem. If you want to listen to that stuff, I wish you would have bought it. It sounds like you downloaded it, and at that time you could pirate music. And I said, so that's really what I'm upset about, is the fact that you didn't pay for it. So let's go for a drive. Long story short, I took him down. And I had him in the right front passenger seat, and we were going over the Coronado Bridge in San Diego. And I said, roll down the window. He goes, for what, Dad? He didn't know I had the CDs with me. And I said, just roll down. I want to get a breeze in here. And he rolls the window down. I hand him the tapes, and I said, toss them. And he just looked at me like, what? And lo and behold, they are sitting at the bottom of the San Diego Bay as we were going over. Now, ask me if that young man ever had a problem with doing that problem again. And the answer was no. And it was the same thing for all this other stuff with, Minecraft and Minecraft and all this other stuff. I just thought it was rewiring kids even back then. And then when you hear this story now about how these two became, romantically involved after being friends, just briefly. Before Tyler moved in, he had a group friend or a group of friends who were gamers. That's not a problem. Tens of thousands of kids are flying drones for the Air Force and Space Force and the United States, and they're protecting our country because they have skill in doing this problem. But there's also a subset that like to dress up in, onesies and, bunny ears and all this other garbage, and they don't know who they are. There's a loss of identity here. And so when we started looking into, the characters of both of these guys, there seemed to have been a common denominator, and that was a hatred of religion and a hatred of their parents. And that was transferred into the gaming. And it's been reported that Tyler would argue for hours with his mother.
Lance Twiggs.
Lance would argue.
Yeah. So I see it a little bit different.
Okay.
I see it that these are all aspects, and it's gradual, and it starts off with, teenagers gaming. But what we heard about Lance Twiggs, even from his own mouth, remember when they said that morning, what time, tell us about your day. He said, well, I got up about 12 or 1. Okay. Obviously he didn't go to a job, and obviously was probably up all night. Okay. Doing things. All these are factors for what Chris is talking about, is the gaming and, the hatred and the isolation. I mean, yes, friend groups, but let's not forget he was on Discord, and we don't know. It seems that a fair amount of his time in life was spent on Discord. So that kind of an existence that a lot of kids are doing is very isolating. But I think in listening and finding out these pieces, we want to know why or how. How does this happen? How does this, kid with not a violent past commit this kind of heinous murder, allegedly? So we can look into his past, and we can look at behavior that is probably going to be very extreme for both of them. Extreme meaning gaming all night.
I think Twiggs was more of an influence on Tyler than Tyler was on Twiggs.
I would agree with that, based on what we know.
Now,
on some of the facts.
He presented very well as a person on video, but I think if this thing goes to trial, the state, if they put that kid up there, and the defense starts opening up Pandora's box, we're going to learn more about, pronouns and all this other stuff where these kids don't even know what they are, who they are, where they're going, how they got there, or where they're supposed to go in the future. And so they get into this false reality and this fantasy world with inside of these, digital environments. Remember when I said, when we talked about, we had a couple of experts on, we talked about the metaverse.
Yes.
Right? And what I said, there's a shifting in predatorial behavior towards what they call the metaverse. Okay? Metaverse. And there was a recent study that these avatars, these young girls going in the metaverse as avatars, going into these environments, and within 3 minutes, they are assaulted, essayed in these environments as an avatar, as an alternative life. Okay. And I thought to myself, holy cow, I saw that coming years ago when I predicted the advent of the intellectual white collar predator. And that was back in 1993, 94, 95. And that was long before, To Catch a Predator ever showed up. And we have this morphing of these fake universes with this false reality in reality. And so you start getting all of these crazy, ideas of, dressing up as dogs and all that other stuff. Well, Twigs is deep into that stuff. And they're going to put him on the stand in real time. And when that happens, I think our society is going to be opened up to a reality check. Okay? A reality check of where have we gone? That because most of this is fantasy based, and a lot of this is predicated upon trying to identify where they fit in the world, not only mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, but also the exploration of sexuality and all of these other dynamics that are going on with 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. When those hormones start hitting and that things start changing, boys at that age are really interesting. I mean, you're a boy mom, and all of this stuff now, you add the dynamic of some of these louder voices, and you can bet this is a predator's playground, the metaverse and the dark web. And all of these environments where you think you're talking to another human being when in fact you're talking to a Wesley Allen. Can you imagine if Ted Bundy had the internet?
That would be horrific. If I can just kind of make a point, not a counterpoint, but like a side point. We've seen this for quite a while now, where these, teenagers start in this fantasy-based world, whether it's gaming. It used to be violent video games. Now it's gaming. And you couple that with isolation, post-COVID, and we've seen this in many, unfortunately, many examples in all kinds of true crime cases over the last, 5-10 years. I mean, go back to Columbine. Okay. So in this case, I mean, we can kind of look for the why. There's going to be, to your point, I think if this does go to trial, a whole lot is going to come out about both of their backgrounds. And I think we're going to see extreme behavior, right? not just the fantasy-based gaming, but Chris, to your point, the loud messaging. I mean, if you're living an isolated life and you're online all the time, you are far more susceptible to believing the extreme views that you're seeing and you come across. And by the way, on a number of social media platforms, it's all about eliciting, an emotional response. There's so much violence when you scroll, even something like X, and these kids have been exposed to it for so many years now that it's a horrible, sad reality, but it shouldn't surprise us. I mean, it does. It's shocking. And look, a horrible crime was committed, and this kid's facing the death penalty. But is it shocking that we're here? And the answer should be no.
Well, and here's the other reality, right? I misspoke. There are 3 mothers.
Yes, there are 3. If you're counting Lance's mom too.
Right. And so how do you go from like the kid on the right, which is Tyler, and the kid on the left, which is Twig? And how do you wake up one day and decide, okay, and they're in a relationship. Okay, we get that piece of the puzzle, not a problem. However, how do you go from the kid on the right? Do we discount the reality, or do we make excuses for the fact that the kid on the left here heavily influenced the kid on the right to the point where the young man on the right, his motivation is to please the kid on the left. And he says, I did it for you, love, my love. Mm-hmm. Okay. Am I missing something?
I mean, the fact that we're painting the accused killer as, well, he came from a good family and was a 4.0 student. So was Ted Bundy was a 4.0 student, and so was Brandon Wilson.
4 mothers. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Charlie.
Alicia, thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Go ahead.
As opposed to a kid who grew up with, let's say, no parents, very rough background. What, we expect that person to display violence as an adult? So I think regardless of the background, the potential is there. That's the only point I'm making. And I think in every case you've got moms on both sides too. You've got the victim, whoever the victim is, you've got her, and you've got the perpetrator. And but I think in this case, you're saying this was such a shocking political statement of an assassination. How did we get here? I think that's where you're going.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's hard to get our minds around how this unfolded.
How is a jury going to react in a courtroom to the unfolding of both of these lives, all of the lives unfolding in front of them? Charlie's life is going to unfold. Erica's life is going to unfold. Lance's life is going to unfold in front of a jury, as is Tyler's life. All of these lives are going to come to in front of a jury and to the world, for that matter, if it goes to trial, God willing, with this judge, if he can ever get to it. But think about the social implications this particular crime is going to have. We already have one. We know that Luigi, his was politically motivated against corporate America, and the man's out to get you. We're going to take all your money, yada yada. So therefore, his motivation is clearly in his manifesto, and it's clearly on his shell casings. And you had 38% of the population that approved of that violence.
Yeah, that's a disgusting number, but that's a reality.
That was a study that was done after that. Okay, so here's I guess here's another piece where I'm going here. What's going to be the percentage that's going to be like Lance on the left? I mean, not the left politically in this picture. Who's going to say what Tyler did? I accept. I agree. What's that number going to be? And who's going to be those demographics in our society, in our social makeup that says, I don't have a problem with him doing what he did? There were many people quickly after his murder, Charlie Kirk's, that immediately went on Twitter. You had two fruitcakes in the audience, one of them who had a history of taking credit for, and let's see here. Fern, the reason I go slow is so you understand what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll go a little bit slower just for you. Okay, that's it. Those kind of people right there, what are the numbers going to be? And I'm wondering what the demographics are going to be in that number. I guarantee you it's going to be 25 and below are going to accept that what Tyler did in their minds was okay. Thoughts?
I guess I just look at it differently. There's so much hate out there that we all know. There's going to be people in that 38%, and I don't know what the number is regarding this case. But so I like to focus on what's the jury going to decide if this does go to trial, if it goes to trial. And, unfortunately or fortunately, we have to have faith in the criminal justice system. It's all we have at this point.
What's a jury going to say when they show the kid on the left in a onesie, furry outfit?
I think the defense is not going to allow it, and I think the judge is going to go along with the defense not showing that. It may never be admitted. You may never have that. The jury may never see that if this does go to trial.
Okay. And you know what that will do? That will open up the door to discuss the trans movement.
Yeah, it may open it up anyway.
It's going to explode. So all of you folks, put your seatbelts on. Your hero here is going to actually explode the conversation. Unfortunately, it will happen in a court of law in Utah. And the way you think I talk slow, wait till this judge gets hold of that conversation.
That person said that the chat was going slow.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Wait till the judge gets hold of that conversation. Oh my gosh, you're going to need one of those scooters to get around Provo.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Right now, we're still at the preliminary hearing. Let's say, because we have pointed out the enormous amount of evidence that the prosecution has against Robinson in this case. If the judge finds probable cause and says, yep, let's set a trial date. Do you think the defense is going to encourage their client to plead guilty, or do you think this is going to go to trial? Is there any way to know?
Here's what I predict, I think Tyler's defense team is going to go after Lance.
In what way?
He's involved, some other dude. Okay. And isn't it true? You were the one that wanted to do this and you influenced Tyler.
So you think that would be their defense?
That's going to be the strategy. Mm-hmm. Why do you think they put him on video?
To protect him.
Correct. Because if they get him on if the prosecution, once the prosecution puts him on the stand, and let's say he's taking all kinds of medications for, you know, transitioning and all this other stuff, and there are other, they'll bring in medical experts that are going to talk about the highs, are going to talk about the lows, and all this other stuff, the psychosis aspects of things, the manic side of things, the fact that that Tyler lost his virginity through Lance and all this other stuff. That's going to be his defense. And they're going to go after him, and it's going to open up a can of craziness. And you know what it's going to do, though? It's going to shed, or it's going to put a very large spotlight on our society and our social structure. What is morally acceptable? What is not acceptable? And what it's going to do is it's going to show that the line between right and wrong has been blurred and has been erased. And this is the result when you erase the line of society. What is socially, morally acceptable, and how far does it go? Remember, there was only 1/3 of the population in Germany that voted for Adolf Hitler. That's only 1 out of 3. So if we take, and he gained enough power to kill millions and millions of people, if our society accepts, and this is where the defense is going to go, if we say, hey, this stuff can absolutely be good to go here, then what we've done, the defense will argue, is say, well, what that has done is it took a young man, Tyler Robinson, my client, and he took him into the depths of confusion. And he pulled him into the depths of confusion. And that journey that Tyler took at the behest of his partner, Lance, was one that Tyler didn't want. Because in Tyler's mind, he felt everything he was doing was trying to please his lover. And it's going to be such an crazy, crazy conversation where you'll have people outside with signs, wearing muzzles, in duck suits, in dog suits, and all this other craziness, justice for, Lance, justice for Tyler. And all of this crazy confusion that our society, quite frankly, has been dealing with right now is going to come to the surface.
It's interesting that this preliminary hearing over the course of the last week has really brought into the spotlight this second character. People asked, 8 months ago, is he a co-conspirator? What is his role? We knew about him, and then he literally disappeared for 8 months. And now, with the preliminary hearing, he's back. We saw him on a video recording, talking, giving, answers to the question. I didn't buy a lot of it, especially when he was asked in that interrogation, how often did you guys talk about politics? I'm just paraphrasing, but, did Tyler talk about politics with you? And of course, he's going to downplay the whole thing. It'll be really interesting. It'll be interesting to see, number one, if this does go to trial, and number two, what is the defense's strategy? And of course, how the prosecution is going to counter that.
Yeah. And, reality check is because half the country promotes diversity. Thank you. But this is beyond that. We have to understand something. And we have to have a very real conversation with our children, our grandchildren, our friends, our neighbors, where the underlining current here, if you think about behavior as a whole, thoughts, feelings, and emotions create behavior. All right. I have sat across some of the most evil individuals on the earth. And I always go back to Wesley Allen Dodd because back in 1992, I was one of the last guys to interview him before he was executed in Walla Walla State Prison in Washington State. I spent about 6.5, almost 7 hours with him. And this was a serial child killer. And this was the guy that whenever he was asked, Wesley, what would happen if they let you out today? And the first thing he says, without missing a beat, I would go look for another child. I mean, he did not miss a beat. All right. So I spent almost 7 hours with him, and we walked through his entire life from the day he, can remember as far back as he could go. And he just laid it all out. And he had done it many, many times before to other people. He did it at the BAU, et cetera. And he was very methodical about how he got to where he knew that he had to go to the next level. Here's where I'm going. So on the surface, you see this very calm, casual, evil persona. But underneath, like a rapid river, is all of this turmoil of, just outrageous craziness going on here. And I won't even go into it. He's in Dr. Bricato's book, or at least he's going to be in his next book. But all of this stuff is raging underneath there. And guess what it's connected to? It's connected to a tension, a sexual tension, okay? To where he's got to release that tension. And it turns into this aggressive behavior. All right? I guarantee you, in this case, there will be experts that will draw conclusions, testimony of opinion about the confusion that was going on in Tyler Robinson's life. Religion's pulling him one way. Parental authorities pulling him one way. Schools pulling him one way. Society's pulling him one way. Charlie Kirk's pulling him one way. All of this stuff culminating into a political explosion about transgenderism. And he puts it in his manifesto or the note. I had the opportunity to take him out. So I took it. And I did it for you, my love. That is an undertone of tension that's connected here. I'm not going to deny that personally because I'm not like that. I see that as a reality into this situation.
It's going to be interesting to see how the prosecution plays that. Do they focus more on that, or do they focus more on, quote, some hate can't be negotiated out, whatever that means, which is the other thing he wrote.
Right. And so you have to, right? So the question's going to be for the jury is, well, what's your definition of hate? And so the prosecution has to answer that question. What kind of hate does he equate that Charlie is saying? Because we have like our viewer said a little bit ago, we have part of our society that says, well, you can't say that. Don't be mean. You know, he's saying this and you can't disagree, you know. Okay, well, what's the definition of the thought police? Who is the thought police? That's what it will come down to, because you know, you had 1/3 of the population in Germany thought they were the thought police. Oh, you're of that, you know, you're gay. Oh, you're going into a concentration camp. Oh, you're trans. Oh, you're going into a concentration camp. Remember, it was the Nazis that killed them.
I think that the Luigi Mangione case will figure not into this case, but I think how that is handled, because it is similar in
Great
motive.
point.
I think we're going to see, again, I can't predict it, but it's going to be, let me put it this way. It's going to be interesting to watch how that case unfolds and how prosecutors handle the Robinson case.
Yeah. It's going to be, I'm guaranteeing everybody, mark my words, put your seatbelts on. This trial, if it goes to trial, is going to be really nasty. It's going to be really nasty because it's going to be a real conversation about what these kids, and I say kids, they're both very young.
Well, they're adults now, but
they're adults.
This started when they were
younger,
a little younger.
What the effects have been in our society when we blur the line and we don't have self-accountability, but we have confusion. And when we can't even figure out, and by the way, I was also the detective that investigated Matthew Checky, who was the first child killed in a public restroom. And he was left on a bathroom floor, which started the family restroom movement in the United States. I can't tell you how I felt when I was standing over that young man and when I went into a restroom at an airport that said, anybody come on in. I can't tell you how I felt about his mother, what she must have been thinking, about their family, what they must have been thinking, and how far we have come from protecting children to serving up our children. And Karen knows me. I don't shy away from this in any way, shape, or form. And I can tell you why I don't shy away from it. Rather than tell you, and it's not, I don't even know what transphobia is, quite frankly. I see your comment, okay? But you tell me what this is, and then I'll explain what I feel.
Oceanside Police Department, copy of the 9/11 calls, Oceanside Harbor, Matthew Checky homicide case.
Police and fire emergency? Yes, I need an ambulance, a helicopter right now. We're at Oceanside Harbor. Someone just He's in a bathroom right here in the Oceanside Harbor.
Sir, is he still breathing? Sir, is he still... Listen to me.
He's not doing good. Someone
Sir,
just came in and stabbed
listen to me, okay? I need you to calm down so I'm able to get the information to the officers. Is he still breathing, yes or no?
And he's still breathing. Is he still breathing? Sure.
They're on their way.
Still breathing, but there's blood.
Okay, I want you to describe the suspects to me. Start with the first one, white, black, Hispanic, Oriental. Sir, listen to me.
I know. He shouldn't be doing it.
Sir.
Okay, no.
Sir.
Hey,
Sir.
you gotta do it.
Sir.
He needs to mouth to mouth.
Listen to me. Sir, if he's still breathing, do not breathe in his mouth.
Huh?
If he is still breathing, do not give him CPR. Do you understand me?
Leave him alone. Leave him alone. The guy's okay. He's slitting us. Someone slit his throat.
Okay, listen to me.
Hurry.
Does someone have a rag that they can put pressure on that wound?
Yeah. Okay, hey. Okay, wait a minute. Put a rag. Don't do that. Don't do that. Put a rag on his mouth.
Okay, so I want to know from anybody in society how a family member is standing over a 9-year-old little boy slaughtered in a bathroom, a public bathroom, by somebody who went to a hotel room and spent hours watching inappropriate material after doing it. How anybody can justify in our society, that is the actual 911 call, and I cut it short because it gets really bad. That is the actual 911 call. And today, children go into bathrooms where people would want to do that because of an underlying current that I'm talking about here. Enough to the point where we're getting to a place where I don't think anybody can argue with that 911 call. I don't think anybody can defend your position when you hear that 911 call. That call needs to be played before Congress again. And we need to get back to sanity in this world. Because, you know, we've lost our way. We've lost our way. And it's only a few that are able to argue. It's only a few. But I think we need to stand back up as in the human condition and say, enough. Enough of the Charlie Kirks taking their lives. Enough of the Matthew Checkies going to the bathroom, being slaughtered. And then there was legislation, by the way, it was called Matthew's Law. And I can't tell you what's on the horizon because you don't want to know. But Karen knows that I know what's coming. If we don't get a hold of our society and our moral compass, because these adults, these young adults, don't know what direction they're headed. And Tyler, in my opinion, is the epitome of the direction one can go when influenced by another person who feels they don't know where they're going. Think about that. In his writings, in his discords, in Discord, all of the other things, the kid does not know who he is, the one on the left. I'll guarantee you the defense will figure it out on behalf of Tyler to save his life. And we need to buckle up. And those that support, and you're going to wear all the stuff, the outfits and all this other stuff. Well, you're about ready to get schooled. And unfortunately, not only did Charlie's life have to bring that to the surface, but I think there's a bigger hand in motion here for us as a society to say, look, where are you going? How are you getting there? And where did you come from? Because at this point, I don't think we know. If we honestly sat down and said to ourselves, would we ever think that we would go to Disneyland and take our children to the princess shop and see the Dairy Queen? Would we ever think our society would get to that point where we'd have 4-year-olds playing princess? So the evidence against Charlie right now, against Tyler, is the surveillance, the rifle ballistics, and the rifle, not the casing matching, not the fragments matching. It was inconclusive for direct microscopic match. However, they did match the Dremel, and the bullet fragments, though they couldn't conclusively. However, they did also match the 3 unfired cartridges had engravings, and the spent shell casing was found to match the rifle. We have all the text messages, the DNA evidence reports on the towel wrapped on the screwdriver, etc., in the rooftop area, all the video evidence and the video interview with Lance Twiggs, pre-recorded. And we also have Robinson himself, who was crying days after the shooting and said he wishes he hadn't done it. So by that time, his conscience, what was left of it, had kicked in, which tells us he had some type of foundation between right and wrong. And that also goes towards premeditation. Do you understand the difference between right and wrong? The fact that he showed an emotional response and said, I wish I hadn't done it, goes towards his malice aforethought, what it's called, evil intent, evil mind. And it shows that he consciously made all of these decisions.
What does a good prosecutor do with that information? If the accused says, I wish I hadn't done it. That's powerful.
Well,
what do they do with it?
It shows that he had evil intent.
So it's just used against him.
Right.
But defense will try to use that positively for their client.
Right. Well, the defense will use it the prosecution will use it against Tyler to say that this was a overwhelmingly premeditated first-degree murder with special circumstances that warrant the death penalty. He did all of these things. And in fact, when he was done at the very end, he tried to show remorse and regret, which shows he had consciousness of guilt, which is one of the elements necessary to prove premeditation.
I still don't see how a defense attorneys can. I don't see what do they do with 4 separate admissions of guilt by the defendant. How do you get over that as a defense attorney?
You cross your fingers, you grab a rope, and you swing over out over the lake and hope it doesn't break. You just roll. And you get a guy like Novak who just delay. It's all about billing hours for him at this point.
And Kathy Nestor.
And both of them. It's all about dollars and cents at this point. I mean, there's not much they can do. I mean, it's like blowing out a light bulb right now. I mean, literally, if the preponderance of evidence right now went before a jury, just on what we've heard, it's over. He's gone. And we're just trying to, and by the way, that's just at a very low standard. So they're gonna attack the process. They'll attack the officers, like Officer Falmino, who was up there testifying the other day. Great Samoan girl.
She did a great job.
She did a amazing job. Okay. And so they'll go after her. They'll go after, the State Bureau of Investigations. They'll go after the collection process, the evidence. But they're going to have a really high mountain to climb when it came out of the defendant's mouth himself that he said, "Yeah, I did it." Okay.
And the writing. Writings, if you want to call it. The letter, the text, the messages on Discord. There's a lot.
Yeah, he's toast. Throw some toast up in the emojis. And we just, they're just going to have to cross their fingers, literally, and see what they can get to stick on the wall. That's what I think is going to happen.
It's going to be interesting. So if you're just joining us or joined us after we started, the judge in the preliminary hearing, Judge Tony Graff Jr., he set a briefing schedule. He told at the end of the 5 days of the preliminary hearing, he told the defense and the prosecution team to come back September 1st. He's going to limit to 2 hours the arguments for each side. And they were also given certain dates to file motions and their response. But now we're waiting till September 1st, which is like another 6 weeks, if not more. And I don't know, Chris, do you think the judge is going to make a decision at the end of September 1st? The way it's going?
I don't know. I mean, the way he's doing things right now, do you guys think? I don't see him making a decision right away. He's going to, I mean, the fact that they're coming back and he's giving them each 2 hours. Are you kidding me?
It's going to be a long 4 hours.
Maybe a half hour each. I've seen DAs just get in there and just go, man. And it's over. And it's over.
It almost seems like at one point, one of the next mornings during the preliminary hearing, it was almost like he went and talked to somebody, a mentor, the presiding judge, whoever, because he came back in the morning and he seemed a little more confident. Do you remember what day that was?
I don't. Day 2.
I think it was
into day 3.
Yeah. But then we went back to the wishy-washy. I'm going to listen to everything. I'm going to let the defense continue to make objection after objection and not make a decision, not be able to make a ruling.
Yeah.
I mean, it was mind-blowing.
And I think that's going to cost Tyler. I really do. Because I think the longer the defense gets up there, they're showing their hand. And the prosecution's going to be ready for it come trial. Because the defense already knows what the prosecution has. They don't have to get out there and play hocus pocus. But the longer the defense shows their hand, it gets really weird for Tyler, in my opinion. I don't think the Novak and his other defense attorneys doing him any favors. I really don't.
In terms of it's not going to play well to the jury.
No. Well, yeah, you got to get in and get out right now. You know, it's just a small piece of the puzzle. Get in, lay it out there, get out now and move on. Get ready for trial, go to fight, you know, because look at this. You go from this persona. Here's a kid, Lance Twiggs, not in his life at all. And this is the persona that he's projecting. What's this tell us? As a society, it tells us he's thinking about his future. He's just graduating high school. And he's thinking, okay, I'm going to conquer the world. I got a 4.0 GPA. My mom's proud of me. I'm a gifted student. I'm going to start applying for colleges. Everything about this young man right here in this picture says, I'm going to take the world by, you know, the tail, and I'm going to conquer the world. Guess what? There's only one common denominator that changed that persona. And that's the one on the left. When they moved in together, it all fell apart. That's what the defense is going to argue, and they're going to go after. If I was a defense attorney, my strategy would be, I'm going to grill this guy on the left the moment he sits on the stand. And the moment he goes, that's not my name. My pronoun is, the defense attorney's going to just eat that alive, because he's going to start referring to his client as Tyler. As Tyler. If I was the defense attorney, I would attack the whole motive here, the political motive over transgenderism. And I would go on full auto attack. That would be one heck of a defense strategy, because what you're doing there is you're saying, yeah, I did it, but so did he. And because he has somewhat of, you know, immunity, if he says something anywhere in the middle of this thing, a judge will stop the trial and say, Mr. Twig, keep your mouth shut for a moment. Counsel, let's have a sidebar. And you know what he'll say, honey? He'll go, he's getting close to incriminating himself. We might want to get him an attorney right now.
I think if he were to take the stand, he would have an attorney.
Well, and do you think an attorney's going to say, you get up there and you go, Lance?
Of course not.
No. That's exactly right. And all of that now, that conversation could turn into, oh boy.
I mean, I see it just as creating sympathy for the defendant. Well, what else could it do?
It could derail the whole trial.
Could the state have to bring charges against him?
They could. And then now we go into chapter 2. We got this guy at the university. We got the other guy. They will try to tie him to the Dremel and to the etching. Because if he says, look, I took the shot, but he drew all the stuff on the bullets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we don't know if that's going to be the evidence or if that could be the evidence. But you can bet it will turn into he said, she said. And they would both do this. Why do you think they gave him immunity right now in a proffer? By the way, it's limited.
So they could always potentially come back and bring charges against him.
They could hammer him. They could not only they're hammering Tyler right now. Yeah, they're if Twiggs goes sideways and that door is open, the defense is going to the defense is going to say, Your Honor, he opened the door on the trans question. We didn't. He opened that door, and now we want to address it. And they'll go right at him, full throttle.
It'll be interesting.
Which, by the way, for the record, everybody, okay, it's not my ideas. I'm thinking like a defense attorney, and I've been known. One of the DAs that I was very close to, he said, "You know what makes you dangerous, McDonough?" And I said, "I have no idea." His name is Mark Batim. He said, "You think just like a defense attorney." He said, "By the time your cases get to trial, you've already given them everything. You answered all their questions, and they have no place to go." And that's why my solvability rate was pretty good. Let's see here. Will this judge be the trial judge too? He could be, yes.
Unless he was to be removed and a different judge would be brought in. But we were making the point earlier, thank you, Hellraiser, that we don't see that happening. I mean, we're so far down the road with this judge being so familiar with the evidence and the case and all that. Right, Chris?
Yeah. I don't see him getting either recusing, pulling himself out.
No, I don't see that at all.
And we don't know who did. That's a great question. Who did burn the note? We know that Twiggs took a picture of the note. Okay. But we don't know who burned it. All Charlie wanted was to have a conversation about all of us. Thank you, Rosebud. Now we have to, and Charlie lost his life and now here to see it.
That's a great point.
That's a great point. Yeah. And it all comes down to the thought police. What is hate speech? Who can define it?
I don't think it comes down to that. I don't think that's the argument. I think if the motive was political in nature, then that's the motive, and Robinson is going to have to face the music.
Right, but
which is the death penalty is on the table.
The motive, right, to your point, and I agree, the motive is political in nature, but what's the undercurrent? Hate speech.
Well, okay.
Against the trans community. That's what Charlie Kirk
they think,
is alleged to have done.
Right. But I still think the murder is, yes, that's the motivation, but it's almost regardless of what Charlie Kirk espoused or didn't espouse. At this point, did this man, Tyler Robinson, pull the trigger, and did he take this man's life? And we're saying the evidence is a huge amount of evidence. So let this judge understand that, acknowledge it, let this work its way through the court system and go to a pretrial. Let's get ready for a pretrial.
Right. And you don't have to prove motive, but you know the number one thing a jury wants?
I know the jury wants it, but the jury's going to be served up all this evidence, all of this, and they're going to be asked to decide based on the evidence, based on the facts of the case.
Yep.
Right? Is there enough to convict this person, or do they have the wrong person? I mean, obviously, that's not how they present it.
That's the prosecution side.
Yes.
But the defense now has to humanize
and
Tyler.
Raise doubt. And of course, their job is to raise doubt.
Well, not only that, you have to take the defendant and humanize him before a jury. That he has to have feelings. Or juries go, he's gone, toast, aloha.
Right. So they're going to try to get sympathy.
Right.
Any way they can create sympathy for their client, it's already started. We see aspects of that.
Correct. And so one of the questions that will be lingering constantly in the jury's mind, I think. And you guys tell us what you guys think in our chat. Your opinions are very valuable to us. But what I think a jury's going to do is sit there and they're going to watch all of the stuff. They're going to see, the shot, all of that stuff, and they're going to be impacted in such a way that the one lingering question in their mind is, why? Everybody, even tonight in the chat, is going, but he didn't use hate speech. He was saying what he wanted to say, and it wasn't an attack on any, you see, there's already this idea that's already in our culture, in the conversation, that a jury is now going to have to struggle with. And I see, go ahead.
There's always the why question. I think every jury has that question in the back of their mind. And the way it works is they have to deliberate on the evidence. They have to stick to the evidence of what is presented to them, and does it meet the bar? Does it meet the bar of what their job is? Right. They're always going to have the why. They're not going to get the why. Look at the Carmelo Anthony case.
But wait a minute. I'm with you.
Okay,
look what Elaine says. I believe the motive was politically driven by the biased media causing division and promoting groupthink. Charlie promoted independent thinking. Okay, yes. That's one lane. But remember, here's the problem that they have. Okay, they have the note that says, "I did it for you, love, my love." They have the etching, and there are references to, the
political groups,
the political group, the transgender movements. Those are all etched on those bullets. So how do you unargue that as a prosecution and only stay on one side of the conversation, i.e. the political side? Somebody has the jury's going to have to be asking the question, well, okay, just because you don't like somebody politically, we get that. But is that it? Is that all? Because now you're going to have Twiggs, the state's witness, sitting up there and going, what's your name? And we don't know in a year from now what he's going to look like. We don't know if, he's transitioned at that point. We definitely know that his partner and his lover is sitting at the table and that he says, I pulled the trigger for you. Well, the defense is going to take that as far as they can get it to save his life, to save Tyler's life. And that's going to open up a whole new direction for this conversation in this country. So it's not only just the fact that that's one thought process, that the media is creating this groupthink and it's politically being driven. That's one part. But I think there's going to be a much bigger dialogue taking place. Why won't Nancy's friends talk of her? Okay, let's shift gears for a minute. Why do you, since we've been thinking here, why was that? You've had a lot of time to think about it over the last 2 or 3 days. What say you, hon?
I can't speak for anybody, of course, but I think it's one of a couple things. I think either they are nervous, fearful to put anything out, even if it's positive and good. And I think also they were probably asked or told, do not speak to the media. We got that sense because the whole community, like we've mentioned several times already, when we went to Tucson a few weeks ago, there really is no trace of Nancy Guthrie anywhere forward-facing in the community. There were no flyers about her, right? The missing flyer, we've seen the billboard, but that's not on flyers in public places, public buildings, store shops, restaurants, wherever people go and gather. And of course, we never saw anything, not one flyer, not one mention about Porch Guy. Obviously, there have been no arrests so far in terms of, I'm not talking about Derek Colella, not talking about side arrests. But in this case, as far as we know, Porch Guy has not been identified yet. He's out there. He's absolutely the missing link into finding out what happened to Nancy, who took Nancy, and why. And there doesn't seem to be any effort within Pima County or the Tucson area to try to ask the public to identify who Porch Guy could be.
Yeah, what's going to be really interesting if we compare and contrast. While we were driving home, Karen and I were laughing. Well, not laughing, but yeah, kind of laughing. I was laughing. I said, could you imagine seeing a defense team like that and you have Nanos on the stand? Oh my gosh. It would be a disaster. It would be a disaster. Can you guys imagine seeing that piece of this puzzle unfold? You hear Buddy?
Every time we talk about Porch Guy and Buddy's in the room, Buddy gets physically
Buddy
agitated.
doesn't like Porch Guy.
He doesn't like Porch Guy. You're hearing Buddy.
What is it, Bud? You guys, can you hear him in the background? He's laying at our feet.
So when you said that, I just feel like we don't know how far away we are from Pima County making an arrest or arrests in the case. And I just feel like, gosh, would this ever go to trial? I mean, it feels far away.
It does feel far away.
It feels real far away.
I think they're still waiting. Hang on for a minute. But quiet. You may have to.
I may have to go get him.
Hang on. I still think that this guy is local. He's not far away. I am still very disappointed that they have not activated any of the teams out there around the parks or anything like that.
I'm going to have to go get Buddy a treat.
Okay.
To quiet him down. Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't see any movement from the agencies, either Pima County and or the Tucson PD. I see the streamers out there kicking up the dust on the street, passing out flyers, doing all those things. But we're not seeing it from the sheriff's department. And I checked in with my sources the other day. They said they're still waiting for a lot more information to come back, i.e. the DNA. My concern is if the DNA doesn't come back with any definitive hits, they have to go back to square one. They have to go back to square one and start from the beginning. And that means, they're going to have to go back and they're going to have to look at all those body worn camera footage and, talk about what they see, what they don't see, what they hear, what they think they hear, what they're probably not hearing. And you're going to have to walk and go very carefully and very slowly through the totality of the beginning. Go back to the beginning. There are so many gaps that just have not been answered into the public arena. And some of it, rightfully so, there's no question about it. But at some point, the sheriff is going to have another national press conference, not just with the locals. Because only pushing it out through the local media does not look good. It just shows, quite frankly, another level of incompetence. Now, the fact that he, doesn't have to, probably won't ever sit on the stand, he may. We'll see whoever gets taken into custody and how the defense plays that one. But at this point, the sheriff has to be focusing not only on the DNA and trying to look for maybe genetic genealogy. And what I say, you're always waiting for Santa Claus to come down the chimney. Well, unfortunately, you've got to go make the toys, man. And you've got to deliver them to the sled so he can put them out. By just waiting, you're losing a lot of ground. Because remember, Nancy Guthrie is not at her house. She is out somewhere. There's a high probability she's laid out in the desert somewhere. And you've got to go to those types of environments, and you've got to press those environments through search and rescue, through interviews. You've got to get down and dirty into the environments where Porch Guy could be. And you've got to push the envelope. And I'm not sure that's occurring anymore. Not in totality. What say you? I see, remember he hooked up a lot of the streamers out in front of Nancy's house? Well, that DA did the right thing so far and has dismissed 3 of the 4 cases so far. Because she knew. That was a no-brainer. And quite frankly, I think the individuals that stood there, the sheriff should look in his rearview mirror. They may be driving his Corvette one day. I hope they like the color. And Sheriff Nanos, I know he has a membership at a golf course. Maybe you'll get his membership too. So anyway, that said, there's not a whole bunch of movement going on there. And so I'm going to be working on putting a couple more things together over the next couple of days. So I'm going to put Gary back in here with John, and we're going to talk about a couple more things on Nancy. So that said, Karen just gave me the thumbs up that Buddy's got a snack. We just got home literally about 2 hours ago from San Diego. And let's say it should be about who killed Charlie Kirk, but I agree with Chris. Hate speech will be on trial. I totally agree. And thank you so much, Poodle Mom. And isn't that right? Isn't that sad that we even have to think like that? We even have to think like that. But what is hate speech? That's a really interesting terminology in today's words, in today's society. What is hate speech? If we can't define it, then it doesn't exist. And if we're making it up as we go along, then this is 1933. Because who determines who can say what and when? Remember the revolution in, I think it was 1753. The King of England put a tax, a stamp tax on the 13 colonies. And you know what that 13 or that stamp tax was? This was before the Boston Tea Party. There was a stamp tax, which means remember the old press, the printer press, they call them stamps. So as you would write on these old printer presses, and you take the ink block and, they'd put the little letters there, okay, and then they'd ink block over them. Then they'd put the thing down and they'd roll it through and roll it out, and then you'd have a newspaper, okay? Well, the British Empire wanted a piece of that action. And so it was really about free speech. They were taxing free speech. We forget in U.S. history that was the buildup to the Revolutionary War, where when you look at the snake, it's cut into 13 pieces because all 13 of the colonies came together. Because before they were broken. But our founding fathers in this experiment of the Republic of what we call the United States of America today and the unity of our country all started with the ability to talk. And remember, they left for freedom of religion. But then the next piece was freedom of speech. So in today's world, there has to be this idea that says we have to figure out how to tolerate differences, not eliminate them. A civil society does not eliminate differences. We embrace them. It's what makes us unique as a people, as neighbors, as friends, all denominations, all races, all ideas. We embrace them. You can embrace them in your houses of worship. You can embrace them in your own house, in whatever type of worship you want. You can embrace them on a college university where it's the diversity of speech that makes this country great. It's the diversity of ideas that makes this country powerful. And when we take away that ability in the public square to stand and declare our own thought process, the great thing about the public square is you can hear somebody and you can walk past them. And you can either go, "Hear, hear," or you can say, "All right, man." And you keep going. But when you get down the block, you no longer hear it. You don't stop and say that's hate speech. Because that's what they did in 1933 to 1939. We must never, ever repeat that part of our history in the world. It was called a world war for a reason. And it breaks my heart to see these World War II veterans who are still with us, and there's only a few left, to listen to them and to see them of what's happened to a guy like Charlie Kirk. Pray for us. Whatever denomination you are. Yeah, but he said the waiter did it. I agree with you. Thank you so much, Cammie. We need it. We need it. We are so lucky to be here now with this freedom of speech, and you're doing a great works with Cold Case Files. We are your well. You're your own follower, my brother. Trust me. We appreciate you, though. We appreciate that. And this is a very powerful word, freedom. Freedom is not free. Trust is not earned. I used to ask suspects who've committed the worst crimes. I'd lean over and I say, "May I ask you a question?" And they would say, "Sure." I'd say, "Well, do you trust me?" And of course, every single one of them says no. I said, "I appreciate you saying that because I want to share with you some of my trust with you." Trust is shared. When I share with you, you share with me, and then we trust each other. That's not a bad way to go sometimes. Not a bad way. God bless everybody. Thank you to our veterans. Thank you to our nurses, our doctors, our first responders out there. And thank you for being here tonight. And we will see you on the next one. Aloha. Biakamai. See you on the next one.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away. You and me go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a while.